She grew up believing she was nobody. Just another orphan in a broken empire. But the night her blood lit up with ancient power, the eternal king felt it. And the rebellion swore they'd kill her before he could claim her. Now the last descendant of a fallen royal line is being hunted by two men. One who wants to crown her. One who wants to save her. And both are willing to burn the empire to ash for her fate. This is the story of Arya Whitlock. The girl destined to sit beside a vampire king. Or destroy an entire kingdom trying to escape him. Before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from right now? I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. Ashenfall was a place people tried to forget, a settlement built from broken wood, rusted metal, and the tired hope of the poor. The air always smelled like old smoke. Houses leaned on each other like they were just as exhausted as the people inside them. In the middle of this place lived Arya Whitlock, a girl who had learned how to survive by trusting no one but herself. Arya wasn't weak, she'd proven that countless times. She climbed rooftops faster than most thieves, spoke little, and never showed fear. But even strength didn't change the fact that she was alone. No parents. No family. Just the memory of a woman's voice she barely remembered singing some lullaby she couldn't finish. That morning, Arya walked through the market streets with a small bag of firewood strapped to her back. She planned to sell it for a few coins, maybe enough for bread. People whispered as she passed, not because of anything she did, but because Arya always looked slightly different. Her eyes, grey like a winter storm, held a sharpness that unsettled people. "Strange girl," someone muttered under their breath. "She gives me chills," another whispered. Arya heard them but didn't react. Words never cut her as deeply as life had already done. Just as she reached the marketplace, a violent horn sounded from the cliffs above. Everyone froze. Doors slammed. Mothers grabbed children. Traders pulled blankets over their goods. Arya's pulse jumped. Raiders. "Not again," someone cried. "Hide. Everyone hide." Arya didn't run. She turned toward the sound of the approaching riders, the metal clanging, the heavy boots, the wild screams. "I can outrun them if I need to." But as the raiders thundered into Ashenfall, something felt different this time. They weren't here to steal food or supplies. They were searching. A tall raider with a scar across his bald head shouted, "Find the girl. The one with the mark." Arya's stomach tightened. What girl? What mark? She stepped backward, hiding behind a stall of fish barrels. She kept her breathing slow, but her heart hammered so loudly she feared someone might hear it. Two raiders approached her hiding spot. "Check that side," one said. Arya's instinct kicked in, she ran. She sprinted through narrow alleys, dodging broken carts and piles of rubble. The raiders chased after her, shouting and cursing. "There. The grey-eyed one. They mean me." "Why me?" Arya leapt over a stray dog and turned into the old ruins at the edge of Ashenfall. The stone pillars had been cracked for centuries, and shadows clung to every corner. Before she could reach cover, a raider grabbed her arm, yanking her back. "Got you, girl." Arya struggled, kicking and clawing. "Let go." The man raised his blade to strike her with the flat side, but something inside Arya snapped awake. A burning heat spread through her chest, up her throat, into her fingertips. Her vision blurred. Sound faded. The world dimmed into a pulse, thud, 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 like her heart was pounding through every bone. Then a burst of light erupted from her skin. The raider screamed as the force threw him backward, slamming him into a stone wall. The other raiders stumbled and shielded their eyes. Arya collapsed to her knees, gasping. The light dimmed as quickly as it came. Her shirt sleeve had torn, and beneath the fabric glowed a symbol on her upper arm, an old sigil shaped like an elegant crescent surrounded by thorns. It pulsed once, then faded into her skin. Arya stared in horror. "What is that? Why is it on me?" The raiders were silent for a moment, staring at her like she was something impossible. "The mark," one whispered. "The royal bloodline." Arya shook her head. "No, no, I'm nobody." But they didn't believe her. They looked terrified. "We need to report this," a raider said. "The king must know." Arya's blood went cold. The eternal king. The ruler of the empire. The immortal. The monster parents used to scare children into obedience. And now, he knew she existed. Before she could say another word, a distant sound echoed across the sky like the cry of a giant beast. The raiders fled, leaving Arya alone among the ruins. Arya pressed a trembling hand to the place where the sigil had burned. "What is happening to me?" But something deep in her bones whispered the truth. You were never just an orphan. And the whole empire was about to find out. Far from Ashenfall, the capital city of Nightspire rose like a blade of darkness piercing the sky. It was a fortress built from black stone and silver towers. The moonlight always seemed brighter here, as if afraid to ignore the man who ruled beneath it. King Sebastian Thornvale stood alone on the highest balcony of his palace. His long coat fluttered behind him as an icy wind swept across the city. His eyes, sharp, dark, and ancient, studied the horizon. He didn't breathe. He didn't blink. He simply listened. Then he felt it. A thrum of old magic. A pulse in the bloodlines he had waited centuries to feel again. A voice behind him broke the silence. "My king," murmured Lord Arden, one of his advisors. "Is something wrong?" Sebastian didn't answer at first. He closed his eyes, letting the ancient connection stretch through time and distance. The bond he thought was extinct, no longer was. "She lives," he finally said. Arden blinked. "Who lives, my lord?" Sebastian turned toward him, and the faint moonlight revealed the tension in his jaw, the smallest crack in the calm he usually wore like armor. "The last of the royal line," he said. "The one who is bound to me by birthright." Arden paled. "But that bloodline died out long ago." Sebastian's gaze hardened. "They did not." He walked past Arden, descending the marble steps into the grand hall. His footsteps echoed against the high ceilings carved with scenes of ancient battles. Courtiers gathered, bowing deeply as the king entered. They always bowed low, part out of respect, part out of fear. Sebastian spoke with quiet authority, but his words struck like thunder. "Summon the council. The balance of this empire shifts tonight." Whispers broke across the hall. What does he mean? Is it war? Has the prophecy returned? Sebastian reached the throne, an obsidian seat with silver veins running through it like frozen lightning. He rested one hand on its armrest, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of centuries. "An heir to the old throne has awakened. She bears the mark. I felt it burn." A gasp rippled through the room. Arden stepped forward. "My king, are you certain?" Sebastian's eyes darkened. "I would not mistake the blood that once bound my power." A young noble, trembling, asked, "What does this mean for the empire?" Sebastian looked down at him, not cruelly, but like someone looking at a child who didn't yet understand the world. "It means," Sebastian said, "that my queen has been found." The hall fell silent. His queen. The one the ancient laws demanded he rule beside. The one who carried the blood meant to temper his power. Or unleash it completely. Arden swallowed hard. "Where is she, my king?" Sebastian closed his eyes again. He could still feel it, like a thread pulling him toward the source. "Toward Ashenfall. She is far," he murmured. "But distance will not keep her from me." One of the council members bowed and asked, "Should we send soldiers?" "No," Sebastian said. "Soldiers would frighten her." He paused, then added, "And I do not need help." The hall went deathly still as the meaning sank in. The eternal king would go himself. Sebastian stepped down from the throne, his expression unreadable, calm, controlled, but something storming beneath the surface. A feeling he hadn't experienced in over 100 years. Anticipation. "She has been hidden from me since birth," he said softly. "Someone protected her. Someone lied." His voice turned colder. "I will discover who." Arden bowed deeply. "When will you depart?" Sebastian's eyes flickered with a dangerous gleam. "Tonight." He left the hall, cloak sweeping behind him like a shadow stretching across the world. But as he walked into the quiet stone corridors of the palace, he whispered to himself so softly only the night could hear. "I am coming, Arya Whitlock." He didn't know her face. He didn't know her voice. But through the ancient bond, He felt her. A spark of defiance. A pulse of fear. A soul trying desperately to stay hidden. He felt her heartbeat as if it were echoing inside his own chest. And across the empire, in the ruins of Ashenfall, Arya felt a chill crawl up her spine. She didn't know why. She didn't know him. But deep in her mind, an unfamiliar voice brushed against her thoughts like a whisper of wind. At last. I found you. Arya shivered, gripping her arm where the sigil had awakened. What is happening to me? She whispered again. In Nightspire, Sebastian Thornvale smiled the faintest smile, cold, ancient, inevitable. The beginning, he murmured. Your beginning, my queen. The rebel camp lay hidden inside the thick forests of the Westfall province. Tents blended into the dark trees, and the smell of burning pine drifted in the cold air. Men and women trained with wooden swords, their faces focused with anger and exhaustion. At the center of the camp, inside a canvas tent lit by a single lantern, stood Damian Cross, the man rebels called the Shadow Commander. He studied a map stretched across a table, marked with black XS showing places lost to the king's forces. His jaw clenched as he added another X. We're running out of ground, he muttered. A soldier rushed into the tent, breathless. Commander, news from Ashenfall. Damian didn't look up immediately. What happened? Another raid? No, sir. Something else. Something strange. Damian's eyes narrowed. Speak. The raiders reported a girl. A human girl. The soldier hesitated. She released light. Like magic. Damian stiffened. That's impossible. There's more, the soldier continued. She has the royal mark. The lantern's flame flickered as silence filled the tent. Damian slowly lifted his head. His expression, usually unreadable, shifted with a mix of shock and bitter recognition. The royal bloodline, he whispered. No, they died out. I saw. He stopped himself. The soldier swallowed. Sir, the raider captain said the king felt the awakening. He's going after her. Damian's hands curled into fists. So it was true. The worst possibility. The one prophecy he prayed had died long ago. Where is she now? Damian demanded. We're not sure. The raiders scattered. But she was last seen near the ruins. Damian stepped away from the table and ran a hand through his dark hair. His mind raced with memories he had buried, memories of serving the king, of seeing the dangerous bond between royal blood and the eternal king's power. If the king found this girl, if he bonded with her, the rebellion is finished. Damian's voice came out low, steady, and cold. We need to find her before he does. The soldier nodded, waiting for orders. Gather 20 of our best scouts, Damian said. No uniforms. No flags. We move quietly. Yes, Commander. When the soldier left, Damian stood alone in the lantern's soft, trembling light. His thoughts darkened. The past clawed its way up, unwelcome and sharp. He remembered kneeling before the king years ago. He remembered swearing loyalty. He remembered the moment everything changed, when he realized the king was not protecting the empire, but controlling it. But the royal bloodline. Damian had seen them die. Or so he thought. He whispered bitterly, a descendant survived, and now the world will pay for it. He grabbed his cloak and stepped into the freezing forest air, his expression carved from pure determination. I will not let her fall into his hands. Because Damian knew exactly what the king would do once he had her. He would claim her. Bind her power to his. Awaken the full force of his eternal strength. The empire would kneel forever. Damian couldn't let that happen. As he walked through the camp, several rebels saluted him. He acknowledged them with a nod, but his mind was already in Ashenfall. A woman stepped into his path, Myra, one of his oldest allies. Her brown eyes were sharp enough to see through anything. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said quietly. Damian let out a long breath. Maybe I have. Myra raised a brow. What's wrong? The prophecy, Damian said simply. It's not dead. Her face lost its color. You mean? Yes, he said. The last royal heir is alive. Myra whispered a curse. And the king? Already hunting her. Myra stepped closer. Damian, Are you sure you should be the one to go? After everything, after what happened. I have to, Damien interrupted. This concerns me more than anyone else. Myra hesitated. Do you want to save the girl? Or use her? Damien's expression darkened. I want to stop him. And if stopping him means killing her? Myra asked quietly. Damien looked away. He didn't answer. Because he didn't know. But he knew one thing. He had to reach her first. Arya Whitlock didn't sleep that night. She sat inside a ruined house in Ashenfall, her back pressed against a cracked wall. The sigil on her arm throbbed faintly, like a heartbeat not her own. Her mind replayed the light bursting from her skin, the raiders running in terror, the mark glowing beneath her flesh. What am I? She whispered. The wind outside howled like a warning. She hugged her knees and closed her eyes, trying to breathe normally. But she wasn't alone. Footsteps crunched outside. Soft. Light. Controlled. Arya froze. Someone approached the doorway. She grabbed a piece of broken wood, the sharp end pointing forward. The wooden door creaked open. A man stepped inside, dark cloak, sharp eyes, quiet presence. His movements were careful, practiced. Military. He stopped when he saw her. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. You must be Arya Whitlock, the man said calmly. Arya tightened her grip on the wood. Who are you? Damien Cross, he replied. I'm here to help you. Arya didn't lower the weapon. Everyone says that right before they kill you. Damien's lips twitched slightly. Fair enough. But if I wanted you dead, you wouldn't be holding that stick. She hesitated. He continued, you released powerful magic today. That means every spy, raider, and shadow creature in the Empire knows your name. Arya swallowed hard. I didn't mean to do anything. I know, Damien said gently. But now the king is coming for you. Arya flinched. Why would the king care about me? Because of the mark on your arm, Damien said. It means you're the last heir of the Whitlock bloodline, the royal family that once shared the throne with him. Arya's mouth went dry. That's impossible. I'm nobody. Damien shook his head. You're not nobody. You're the very person the king needs. Arya felt sick. Needs me for what? Damien stepped closer, but slowly, giving her space. For power, he said. For the bond. For the throne. You're the key to all of it. Arya stared at him, confused and terrified. What bond? Damien opened his mouth to answer. But a sudden chill swept through the ruined house. Cold. Heavy. Wrong. Damien's eyes widened. He's here. Arya's heart stopped. Who? Run, Damien commanded. Now. But before they could move, shadows crawled up the walls like living ink. A voice echoed through the ruins, calm, smooth, ancient. Arya Whitlock. The shadows shifted into a tall figure. A man dressed in black. Eyes dark and unblinking. Presence overwhelming. King Sebastian Thornvale had arrived. Arya felt her legs weaken. She couldn't understand why, but when she met his eyes, something inside her reacted. A pull. A whisper in her soul. Sebastian stepped toward her. You are difficult to find, he said. But not impossible. Damien moved in front of Arya, blade drawn. Stay back. Sebastian glanced at Damien with cold amusement. Damien Cross. You survived. Unfortunately for you, Damien snarled. Sebastian didn't bother replying. He returned his gaze to Arya. You felt it, didn't you? He said softly. The awakening. Arya shook her head. I don't know what I felt. You felt me, Sebastian said. Our bond. His voice was calm but filled with authority that pressed on her chest. Damien stepped closer to Arya. Don't listen to him. He's manipulating you. Sebastian's eyes flicked toward Damien. You never understood your place. And you never deserved the throne, Damien shot back. Sebastian's expression remained unreadable, yet something like disappointment flickered in his gaze. Arya whispered, Why do you want me? Sebastian took one slow step forward. Because you are mine. The words echoed like thunder. Arya's breath caught. I'm not yours. Sebastian tilted his head, eyes fixed on her. You carry the royal mark, he said. Your blood calls to mine. By ancient law, you are destined to stand beside me. Damien growled, she doesn't belong to you. Sebastian ignored him completely. Arya, come with me. I will explain everything. Arya's pulse raced. I don't trust you. You don't need to, Sebastian said. The truth is in your blood. Damien lunged first, sword raised high. Arya gasped as the blade streaked toward the king. But Sebastian caught it with 2 fingers. The metal hissed. Damien's eyes widened. Insolent, Sebastian murmured. He snapped the blade in half as if it were made of glass. Damien staggered backward, grabbing Arya's wrist. We have to go. Now. Sebastian moved faster than sight, 1 moment distant, the next standing right in front of them. Arya's breath left her in a panicked gasp. Damien pulled her behind him, but Sebastian didn't touch either of them. He simply said, You cannot run from destiny. Damien hissed, Watch us. He threw a smoke bomb at the ground. Darkness exploded, filling the room. Arya coughed. Damien. This way, he yelled, pulling her through a hole in the back wall. They sprinted through the ruins as shadows moved behind them like liquid night. Arya looked back once, just once, and saw the king standing calmly in the smoke, watching her leave. Not angry. Not rushed. Just certain. As she and Damien escaped into the forest, one thought echoed through her mind, sharper than fear itself. He's not going to stop. And miles away, the king emerged from the shadows with a faint, unreadable smile. She will come to me, he whispered. In time. Night Spire looked like a living nightmare when Arya first saw it. The towering black walls glowed faintly under the moon, as if drinking in the light. Spiked towers spiraled upward like claws stretched toward the sky. The main gates, carved with ancient runes, opened without a sound as Sebastian approached with Arya beside him. Damien had been separated from her an hour earlier. The king's shadows had blocked every escape route, cutting through the forest like smoke with purpose. One moment she'd been running with Damien. The next, Sebastian appeared before her in a blur of darkness, and the world spun into cold silence. Now Arya walked beside him, though she didn't move by choice. His power pressed against her skin like invisible chains. Not painful, but impossible to break. She glared at him. You kidnapped me. Sebastian didn't even look at her. I retrieved what belongs to me. Arya clenched her jaw. I don't belong to anyone. You keep saying that, Sebastian replied calmly, and yet the mark on your arm tells a different story. Arya looked away, hugging herself. Inside the gates, the palace stretched endlessly. Marble floors reflected the torches lining the halls. Statues of past kings and queens stood along the walls, stone faces watching her with cold, regal expressions. Arya stared at one statue, a woman with sharp eyes like hers. Who is she? Arya asked before she could stop herself. Sebastian paused. Queen Seraphina Whitlock. Your ancestor. Arya blinked at the statue's proud face. She looks strong. She was, Sebastian said. You have her eyes. Arya stiffened. Don't compare me to someone who chose to rule beside you. Sebastian's lips tilted slightly. She did not choose. Just as you did not choose. Arya stopped walking. I'm not your queen. Sebastian turned, and for the first time, his expression hardened. Your blood does not ask for permission, he said softly. It simply is. Arya took a shaky breath. She hated the way his voice felt, too calm, too certain, too knowing. As if he understood her better than she understood herself. He continued walking, expecting her to follow. A silent command pulled at her chest, and she moved despite every part of her resisting. They entered the grand hall. Arya gasped. The ceiling rose so high it disappeared into shadow. Paintings of ancient wars covered the walls, humans and vampires fighting side by side against monstrous beasts Arya had never seen before. A long table of obsidian stretched across the center, decorated with silver plates and crystal goblets. At the end of the hall stood the throne. Black stone. Sharp edges. Silver veins pulsing faintly like living metal. Sebastian stood beside it. This palace was once meant for 2 thrones. Arya blinked. 2. One for the eternal king, he said quietly, and one for the bloodbound queen. Arya felt cold. Why do you keep saying bloodbound? Sebastian stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough to drown the air around her. Because your blood connects to mine. The royal line was created to exist beside the king. Not as servants. Not as lovers. But as rulers. Arya whispered, I don't want this. You may not want the throne, Sebastian said softly, but it wants you. Arya felt the weight of the palace pressing around her, ancient and heavy, like memories she didn't own curling around her heart. Her voice cracked. Why me? Why now? Sebastian studied her with an expression she couldn't read. Because you were hidden from me. Someone tried to erase your existence. Someone feared what we would become together. Arya swallowed. Maybe they had a good reason. You think I wish to harm you? Sebastian asked quietly. Arya looked away. I don't know what you want. Sebastian leaned in slightly, forcing her to meet his eyes. What I want, he said, is balance. My power is unstable without the royal line. I have been waiting a century for the mark to awaken again. He paused. And I want you safe. Arya frowned. Safe? You brought me here. Away from my home. Away from. Damien Cross cannot protect you, Sebastian said sharply. He is reckless. Emotional. Blind. Arya's heart jumped. You sound jealous. Sebastian's expression didn't change. Jealousy is a human emotion. And you think you're above humans? I am not human. Arya whispered, I know. They stood in silence for a long moment. Finally, Sebastian turned away. Rest. I will not touch you. I will not command you tonight. Your rooms are prepared. Arya stared at his back. Why are you being gentle? Because destiny does not require cruelty, he said. Only truth. Then he disappeared into the darkness of the hall, leaving Arya alone with the echo of her own unsteady heartbeat. Damien Cross woke on the forest floor with pain screaming through his ribs. The world spun above him, dark branches, shifting moonlight, and the cold night air biting at his skin. He groaned. Arya. But she was gone. The king's shadows had overwhelmed them. Damien had fought until he felt bones crack, until blood filled his mouth, until darkness swallowed his vision. And now, he'd failed. Myra knelt beside him, pressing a cloth to his wound. Damien. Stay still, idiot. He pushed her hand away weakly. Where is she? Myra sighed, her expression collapsing with guilt. Taken. The king has her. Damien closed his eyes. The one thing he feared most had happened. He'll bind her, Damien whispered. Once he completes the bond, there's no stopping him. Myra shook her head. We don't know that. She might resist. Damien laughed bitterly. You don't understand the bond, Myra. You've never seen it. She hesitated. Then tell me. Damien wiped blood from his face, his voice low and rough. When I served the king years ago, I saw what the bond did to people. The royal bloodline wasn't just born to stand beside him. They controlled his power. Balanced it. Without them, he's unstable. With them, he becomes unstoppable. Myra swallowed. So he needs Arya to reach his full strength. Yes, Damien said. And he'll protect her with everything he has. Not because he loves her, he can't love, but because the bond demands it. Myra placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we get her back. Damien opened his eyes. They were dark and determined. I'm not giving up. Not again. Myra frowned. What do you mean again? Damien stiffened. He hadn't meant to say that. But the past clawed its way up, refusing to stay buried. When I was in the palace, Damien said slowly, I was assigned to protect the last queen. Arya's aunt. Myra blinked. I didn't know this. No one knows, Damien said. She trusted me. And I promised her I would keep her safe. His voice cracked. But I failed. The king's enemies attacked. I wasn't strong enough. She died, and the royal line disappeared. I thought they were gone forever. Myra whispered, and now Arya. Now Arya is alive, Damien said. This is my second chance. I won't lose her too. Myra squeezed his shoulder. Then let's get her. Damien winced as he stood. Pain shot through his side. You can barely move, Myra said. I don't need to move, Damien said with a grim smile. I need to plan. He stepped toward the center of the camp. Rebels gathered, their faces tense and expectant. Damien lifted his voice so all could hear. Arya Whitlock is the last royal heir. The king has taken her. If he completes the ancient bond, we lose everything. Murmurs of fear rippled across the crowd. Damien continued, we're going to Nightspire. Gasps. That's suicide, someone said. Damien shook his head. No. It's strategy. He pointed to a map. There are hidden tunnels beneath the palace, old escape routes from centuries ago. I know them. I've used them. Myra raised a brow. You want to sneak into the most guarded fortress in the Empire? Damien smirked. Exactly. A rebel stepped forward. To rescue her? Damien's jaw tightened. To save the Empire, he said. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He wasn't just fighting for the rebellion. He was fighting for Arya. For the promise he broke long ago. For the second chance he didn't deserve. Meanwhile, within the palace, Arya lay awake in a massive room with velvet curtains and a balcony overlooking the moonlit city. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Damien bleeding. She saw Sebastian's dark gaze. She felt the mark on her arm pulse faintly. She whispered into the quiet, I don't belong here. A voice drifted from the shadows. You will. Arya gasped and turned. Sebastian stood in her doorway, silent and calm, watching her with unreadable eyes. He took one step forward, slow, controlled. I told you I would not touch you, he said. I did not say I wouldn't watch over you. Arya's heart raced. I don't need watching. You do, Sebastian said. Because Damien Cross will come for you. Arya's breath caught. Damien, he's alive. Barely, Sebastian murmured. He is stubborn. And reckless. And he will get himself killed if he keeps running toward you. Arya frowned. Why do you care? Sebastian's eyes darkened. Because your life, he said softly, is worth more than his rebellion. Arya felt a shiver run through her. Not fear. Something deeper. Something she didn't want to name. Sebastian stepped back toward the door. Sleep, Arya, he said. You will need your strength. For what? She whispered. For the truth, he said. And for the choice you will soon have to make. Then he vanished into the darkness, leaving Arya trembling with confusion, anger, and an emotion she didn't want to understand. And miles away, Damien Cross sharpened his blades, his heart heavy but determined. Arya was no longer just a lost heir. She was the storm that would decide the Empire's fate. And both men, the king and the rebel, were already willing to bleed for her. Arya knew she shouldn't wander the palace at night, but sleep refused to come. Her thoughts tangled like threads she couldn't pull loose. Damien bleeding, Sebastian's cold voice, the mark on her arm that pulsed softly in the dark. She slipped out of her room, walking barefoot along the marble hallway. Torches flickered gently, casting long shadows that danced across ancient portraits of past queens and kings. One painting caught her eye. A woman with storm-grey eyes, just like Arya's, stood beside a throne. Something about her expression felt familiar. Not kind, not cruel, simply powerful. Arya whispered, "Who were you?" She was a Whitlock, a voice said behind her. Arya jumped, turning sharply. It wasn't Sebastian. It was a tall woman dressed in silver armor, with long dark hair tied behind her. Her expression was calm but carried a quiet strength. "I am Lady Selene," she said, bowing slightly. "Captain of the Royal Guard." Arya swallowed. "I didn't mean to leave my room. I just couldn't sleep." Selene nodded, as if she understood. Few can, their first night in this palace. Too much history. Too many ghosts. Arya stared at the painting again. "Can I ask something?" "Yes." "That woman. Who is she?" Selene stepped beside her. "Queen Helena Whitlock. Your grandmother." Arya froze. My grandmother? Yes. Celine folded her arms. You have her eyes. Her jawline. Her stubbornness. Arya's voice cracked. I never knew her. You weren't meant to, Celine said quietly. The Whitlocks were hunted. Someone hid you far from Nightspire. Arya looked down at her arm. Why? Why hide me? Celine hesitated. Come. She gestured toward a tall door at the end of the hallway. When Arya hesitated, Celine added, if you want answers, this is where they begin. Arya followed. The door opened with a whisper, revealing a vast library filled with thousands of books. Shelves climbed up the walls like towers of knowledge. Candles floated in the air, lighting the room. Celine walked toward a corner shelf and pulled a thick leather-bound book. Read, she said. Arya opened it. Inside were records of the royal bloodline, names, dates, events. At the center of one page was an illustration of a glowing sigil. Her sigil. Arya whispered, what is this mark, really? Celine sat beside her. It is the crest of balance. The royal bloodline existed to restrain the king's power. Arya frowned. Restrain him? Yes. Celine tapped the sigil in the book. The king's magic is endless but unstable. Without the Whitlocks, he becomes too strong, too dangerous. Arya's pulse quickened. So I'm supposed to control Sebastian? Celine nodded. You balance him. You keep his immortality from consuming him. Arya was silent for a long, heavy moment. Then why does he act like I belong to him? She whispered. Celine lowered her voice. Because the bond goes both ways. Once awakened, the king feels a pull toward the royal heir, an instinct to protect, claim, and connect. She paused. But the Whitlock heir also feels a pull toward him. Arya shook her head. No. I don't feel. Celine raised a brow. Are you sure? Arya opened her mouth to deny it. Closed it again. Because in the darkest part of her heart, a tiny whisper told her she wasn't entirely unaffected. Something inside her did react to Sebastian, confused, frightened, drawn, unsure. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Arya whispered. Because the Whitlocks were slaughtered before you were born, Celine said gently. Someone saved you. Someone hid you far from here. Arya tightened her jaw. Damien said he saw the royal line die. Celine's eyes sharpened. Damien Cross is a complicated man. Her tone held an edge Arya didn't understand. Arya asked, you don't trust him? I trust his skill, Celine said. Not his intentions. Before Arya could respond, a new voice echoed through the library. She deserves more than half-truths, Celine. Arya stiffened. Sebastian stood in the doorway, dark clothes blending with the shadows. His hair fell slightly across his forehead, his expression unreadable. Celine bowed and stepped back. Sebastian approached Arya slowly. You have questions, he said. Arya's heartbeat sped up. Yes. Then ask. Arya's voice trembled. What am I to you? Sebastian studied her face for several seconds, long enough that Arya felt exposed. Then he said quietly, you are the last piece of what I am. You are the other half of an ancient creation. Without you, I am incomplete. Arya felt heat crawl up her neck. Incomplete? Yes. Sebastian's voice dropped. And without me, your mark will continue to awaken, painfully. Arya's breath caught. What do you mean? Sebastian reached out slowly, not touching her, just close enough she felt cold air stir against her skin. Your blood knows its purpose, he murmured. It will not let you ignore it. Arya stepped back, her heart pounding. I'm not here to serve your purpose. I want the truth. And I am giving it to you, Sebastian said. Arya's fists shook. Did you kill my family? Sebastian froze. For the first time, he hesitated. No. Arya's breath shook. Then who did? Someone who feared what you and I could become, Sebastian said. Someone who wanted you dead. Arya whispered, who? But Sebastian didn't answer. Because footsteps thundered down the hallway outside. A guard burst into the room. My king. The rebellion. What of them? Sebastian demanded. They're mobilizing, the guard said. heading toward Nightspire. Sebastian's eyes darkened. Damien. Arya felt her blood run cold. The guard added breathlessly, "We believe Commander Cross intends to breach the palace." Arya gasped. Damien was coming for her. And both men, the king and the rebel, were preparing for war. The rebels moved through the forest like a silent wave, swift, determined, deadly. Damien rode at the front, his cloak whipping in the cold wind. Behind him, dozens of rebels followed, armed and focused. Their boots made barely a sound on the damp ground. Nightspire glowed faintly in the distance, like a pair of eyes watching them approach. Myra rode beside Damien. "We're close." Damien nodded but didn't speak. His eyes stayed locked on the towering shape of the palace ahead. Myra studied him. "You're too quiet." "I'm thinking," Damien said. "About Arya?" she asked. Damien inhaled sharply. "She didn't choose this. She didn't ask for any of it. Yet she's caught between powers she doesn't understand." Myra frowned. "Damien, what exactly is she to you?" Damien looked at the sky instead of answering. "Someone who deserves freedom." Myra's voice softened. "Or someone you failed once before." Damien didn't deny it. He tightened his grip on the reins. "We reach the tunnels in 10 minutes, he said. Inside Nightspire, panic stirred beneath the polished calm. Guards scrambled. Alarms echoed through stone halls. Courtiers whispered in fear. Arya stood at a balcony overlooking the city. She saw torches moving like fireflies along the forest's edge. Damien was coming. For her. Her heart twisted painfully. She whispered, "He'll get himself killed." "You care for him," Sebastian's voice came from behind her. Arya turned sharply. The king leaned against the balcony doorway, arms crossed, expression still but eyes sharp. "I care that he's risking his life," Arya said. "Because of me. Because of what you are," Sebastian corrected. "Not because of who you are." Arya glared. "And what do you think I am? A weapon?" Sebastian stepped closer. "No. You are my equal." Arya's breath stilled. Sebastian continued, "You are not a tool. Not a pawn. You are the one person who can stand beside me without being crushed by what I am." Arya swallowed hard. "I don't want to stand beside you." "A lie," Sebastian whispered. Arya's cheeks burned with anger. "I don't." "You feel the bond," he murmured. "You fight it, but it grows stronger every hour." Arya looked away. "You don't get to decide how I feel." Sebastian took one slow step toward her. "I do not. But your blood does." Before Arya could respond, Selene rushed into the balcony. "My king," she said urgently, "the rebels have reached the tunnels." Sebastian's eyes hardened. "Prepare the shadows. No one enters the palace alive." Arya grabbed his sleeve without thinking. "No. Don't kill him." Sebastian looked at her hand, then her face. "Damien Cross will die for his choices," he said calmly. Arya shook her head. "Don't. Please." Her voice broke on the word please. Sebastian froze, not at the plea itself, but at how much pain lay inside it. After a long moment, he said quietly, "I will not kill him. Unless he forces me." Arya closed her eyes, relief fighting fear. Selene muttered under her breath, "Mercy for the rebel." Unbelievable. Sebastian ignored her. He touched the railing, feeling the cold metal vibrate with approaching footsteps deep underground. "He is close," Sebastian murmured. Underground, Damien moved through the forgotten tunnels beneath Nightspire. The stone passages were cracked and damp. Torches flickered along the walls like trembling stars. Myra whispered, "We're almost under the palace." Damien nodded. "Stay alert. The king will sense us soon." Rebels took their positions, ready for battle. Damien inhaled deeply. "Arya, hold on." But as they advanced, the shadows ahead of them twisted, not natural shadows, but cold, whispering shapes. Myra grabbed Damien's arm. "They're here." The king's shadows surged forward. Blades clashed. Sparks flew. Rebels cried out as the living darkness struck them. Damien fought fiercely, swift, deadly, precise. But the shadows kept multiplying. Then a voice echoed through the tunnel. Damien. Damien froze, breath trembling. Sebastian stood at the far end of the tunnel, tall and cold, eyes glowing faintly. Step away, Sebastian said. Leave. You cannot win. Damien lifted his sword. I'm not here to win. I'm here for her. Sebastian stepped forward. She does not belong to you. Damien roared. She doesn't belong to you either. The air crackled. The two men stared at each other, two forces bound by history, hatred, and something deeper neither wanted to admit. Above them, in the palace, Arya gripped the balcony railing so hard her knuckles went white. She felt something inside her ignite. Fear. Power. Destiny. Her mark glowed through her skin. Stop, she whispered. In the tunnels. Sebastian and Damien paused. Both men felt it. The pulse of her blood. Arya opened her eyes, trembling. I can't let them kill each other, she whispered. I won't let this start a war. She took a deep breath and stepped away from the balcony. Her voice echoed through the palace halls. Take me to them. And her fate followed behind her like a rising storm. Arya walked through the palace halls with steps that felt heavier than stone. Selene and two guards followed behind her, but she hardly noticed. Her veins burned with a strange warmth, the same warmth that had surged through her mark in the library. She wasn't sure where her courage came from. Maybe it wasn't courage at all, maybe it was something older, something that had lived inside her blood long before she was born. The doors to the throne room opened on their own with a deep groan. Cold air brushed over her skin. Sebastian stood at the far end of the room, framed by the towering black throne. His cloak streamed behind him like a shadow with a life of its own. His eyes glowed faintly, too faintly. He was weakened. Arya felt it instantly, like a tug at her chest. Where is Damien? She demanded. Sebastian's voice was low. Still in the tunnels. Stubborn as ever. Arya's anger surged. Let him go. You are issuing orders now? Sebastian asked calmly. I'm not your prisoner, Arya snapped. And I'm not letting him die. Sebastian stepped closer, slow and controlled. Arya, you do not understand what is happening to you. Then explain it, she said through clenched teeth. He stopped only an arm's length away. Too close. His presence wrapped around her like cold smoke. The bond between us is awakening, Sebastian said. And as it awakens, my strength rises, but only if you stand with me. Arya swallowed. And if I don't? Sebastian tilted his head slightly. Then the imbalance grows. Into pain. Into destruction. Your body will not handle the power waking inside you. Arya's heartbeat thudded painfully. You're lying. Am I? Sebastian murmured. Your mark already burns. Your senses sharpen. Soon you will hear everything, the pulse of the walls, the breath of the earth, the secrets of blood. It will overwhelm you. Arya wanted to deny it. But she remembered the warmth under her skin. The whispering air. The strange certainty she had felt when she sensed the men in the tunnels. I'm not joining you, she whispered. Not because of destiny. Not because ancient laws say we belong together. Sebastian's eyes narrowed. Then why did you come here? Arya hesitated. Because Damien would die. Because the rebellion would fall. Because if she didn't stop this, the Empire would drown in blood. She lifted her chin. Because I'm done running. A door slammed open behind them. Selene burst into the throne room, breathless. My king. The rebels broke into the inner tunnels. The guards can't hold them. Arya stiffened. Damien. Sebastian let out a slow, heavy breath. So the choice arrives earlier than expected. What choice? Arya demanded. Sebastian looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, his eyes weren't cold. They were tired. Ancient. Wounded in ways she didn't understand. Arya Whitlock, he said softly, your blood decides the fate of this night. Stand with me, and the bond completes. My power stabilizes. The rebellion ends before countless lives are lost. And if I don't, then the rebels will breach the throne room within minutes. War will swallow the Empire. Damien will die. You will suffer the consequences of an incomplete bond until it destroys you. Arya stared at him, breath trembling. This was what fate had shaped for her. A throne. A crown. A kingdom on the edge of ruin. She whispered, I can't choose between you and Damien. Sebastian stepped closer. You are not choosing a man. You are choosing a future. Arya squeezed her eyes shut. Grandmother, what would you have done? When she opened her eyes, something inside her had changed. She walked past Sebastian, straight toward the dais. She stepped onto the marble platform and faced the ancient throne. Sebastian froze. Celine inhaled sharply. Arya placed her hand on the throne's cold armrest. Immediately, the mark on her arm ignited with white gold light. The throne glowed beneath her touch, awakening after years of silence. A low hum filled the room like a heartbeat. Sebastian whispered, Arya, what are you doing? Arya's voice shook, but her will did not. Taking my place. Not as your queen. Not as Damien's savior. But as the last Whitlock. The magic spread up her arm, across her chest, into her eyes. Sebastian dropped to one knee without meaning to, clutching his chest as if the air had been knocked from him. Arya, stop, he growled. But she didn't stop. She sank into the throne. The halls outside thundered with footsteps and battle cries, but Arya heard none of it. Her senses exploded outward, and for a moment, she saw everything. The rebels in the tunnels, fighting desperately. Damien at their front, shouting orders, wounded but unbroken. The palace guards barely holding the line. And Sebastian, bound to her by something older than time, something neither could escape. The light faded. Arya opened her eyes. And the Empire felt her awakening. Silence swept through the throne room. Sebastian rose slowly from the floor, eyes dark with shock, awe, and something more dangerous. Arya, he whispered. You awakened the crest. Arya sat straight-backed on the throne, breathing hard but steady. Her eyes glowed faintly gold. I didn't awaken it. I claimed it. Celine stared at her in disbelief. You completed the throne bond. Alone. Without the king. Sebastian's jaw clenched. Which should be impossible. Arya didn't know how she did it. She only knew it felt right. As if the throne had been waiting for her, not for a pair. But the echoes of pain in her bones reminded her there was still a price. The throne room doors burst open. Damien stumbled inside, blood on his sleeve, sword raised. Behind him came the rebels who survived the tunnels. His eyes found Arya instantly. Arya, he shouted, voice hoarse. Get away from him. He froze. Because Arya was sitting on the throne. Glowing with power. Damien lowered his sword slowly. His voice broke. What have you done? Arya's voice came out quieter than she expected. What I had to. Damien stepped forward, breath shaking. Arya, this is what he wants. This throne binds you to him. It steals your freedom. Sebastian stepped between them like a shadow. She did this herself. Damien glared. You manipulated her. But Arya cut him off. Damien, stop. Damien went silent. His eyes were full of something painful, fear, disappointment, heartbreak. Arya swallowed hard. I need both of you to listen to me. Sebastian and Damien exchanged looks of pure hatred, but neither spoke. Arya took a shaky breath. I saw the Empire. All of it. The rebels. The loyalists. The dying. The starving. The children. The soldiers. Her voice broke. This isn't about one man winning. It's about the Empire surviving. Damien's voice cracked. Arya, he's a monster. Sebastian's voice was cold. And you are a traitor. Arya snapped. Enough. The air trembled. Her voice carried power she didn't understand. Arya stood from the throne, wobbling slightly. The glow from her mark dimmed but did not fade. I will not let this become a war between you two, she said. Damien shook his head. It already is. Sebastian's eyes sharpened. Arya, your place is beside me. The bond demands. Arya turned on him sharply. The bond doesn't dictate my choices. Sebastian's voice darkened. It will. Damien stepped forward with a snarl. Don't threaten her. Sebastian moved instantly, but Arya raised her hand, and a blast of white light threw both men back a step. Both stared at her in shock. Arya whispered, I didn't mean to do that. The throne responded to her. The bloodline responded to her. Power, real, ancient power, responded to her. Damien stared at her, voice soft with fear. Arya, you're changing. I know, she whispered. Sebastian looked at her with something almost like hunger mixed with awe. You are becoming what your blood was meant to be. Arya clenched her fists. I'm not becoming anything for either of you. A tremor shook the palace. Cracks split along the walls. Torches flickered wildly. Selene shouted, the throne bond is unstable. The Empire is reacting to her power. Arya felt pain lance through her chest. She staggered. Sebastian was at her side instantly, catching her before she fell. Damien reached for her too. 4-1 heartbeat. All three of them touched. The world shattered. Arya saw visions. Her grandmother kneeling on the same throne. Sebastian centuries ago, kneeling beside a dying queen with fear in his eyes. Damien as a young knight swearing loyalty. Fire. Betrayal. Blood. She gasped and collapsed to her knees. Sebastian knelt with her, hands gripping her shoulders. Arya, look at me. Damien pulled her toward him. Arya, stay with me. Their voices blurred. Arya's own voice trembled as she whispered. Stop fighting. Her mark burned with white fire. I choose. Her breath hitched. A path neither of you control. Her power erupted. Light swallowed the throne room. Bright, merciless, endless. And every man, woman, rebel, guard, king, commander felt it. When the light faded, Arya stood alone. No longer just an heir. No longer just a queen. Something new. Something ancient. Sebastian stared at her with awe and fury. Damien stared with heartbreak and confusion. And Arya stared at the broken throne. Her voice was barely a whisper. The old empire is dead. She looked at both men. And now, we decide what rises from it. The world waited for her next command. If you want the story to continue into the next arc, say continue. If you want to see what Arya becomes next. If you want to know which man she chooses. Or destroys. Then don't just sit there. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of this dark, twisted empire. Comment below. Team Sebastian? Team Damien? Or Team Arya, who needs no king? Your choice decides the path this story takes. Choose wisely, the Empire is watching.